So in today's video, I want to take a look at the Minichord, how it arrives to you with the original touch plate or strum plate. It's very much like the Omnichord that came out in the early 80s, where you have your chords that you can play on the one side. So you can play along with some of your favorite songs if you know the chords, or you can make up your own little songs. This, as is, it's just a beautiful instrument. There's a lot of great internal sounds that have been programmed. But you may have noticed that, at least with my recent videos and some other videos you've seen out there, that there's an alternative touch plate or strum plate. And I'll explain to you why you might want to opt for this as well. So, like I said, this is a strum plate. So these are all the notes that will go good with whatever chords you have selected here. Great for strumming. However, there might be instances where you want to tap individual notes. And I've made some videos already like that, but quite often it's kind of hit or miss. Sometimes you hit two notes at the same time, because along this touch plate there's actually 12 individual notes that can be played. Now they're repeated notes. They're like the root note, the major third or a minor third, and the major fifth note of a chord, played in octaves. So starting from the lower notes, the same notes played here, and then the same notes played here as well. So you can strum anywhere here. It's going to sound great. But like I said, you might want to have control to individual notes, and that's where an alternate touch plate comes in. Because not only that, once you start to work with the Minichord, hook it up to your computer and go up to the Mini Control web page, you can actually get deep into this instrument and start customizing the sounds to your own liking, or creating sounds from scratch. And quite often when you're working on the harp side, you may come up with individual sounds that just beg to be played individually as opposed to a strum. Let me just give you an example here. Here's one of my custom ones. But as you can hear, I'm not being that accurate. I keep hitting two of these notes at the same time because they're so closely together. So we're going to show you now how to change this. So as far as getting a hold of a alternate touch plate, you're not going to find it on the same website as where you got your Minichord. Usually this is available through third-party sellers. So what I recommend that you do is do a search on eBay. You'll usually find a seller or two who has these. I'm going to link to a couple of sellers in the description box. Hopefully they'll still have some by the time you go check it out. But I'm going to teach you now just the basics on how to install your alternate touch plate. So the first thing you're going to want to do is unplug the Minichord. Always best when you're messing around with electronics to do it when it's not powered up. Now this touch plate here will pull out. It's going to be a little bit tight, especially if this is the first time. If possible, if you've got fingernails at all, you can kind of maybe get underneath there a little bit. You can rock a little bit back and forth, but I wouldn't do too much because it's possible to bend these tabs if you rocked it too much. So that's the original touch plate. We're going to put that out there. And let me just see there. There's a couple of different ways this can go. I think this is the way it's going to go, where the prongs are more towards this side here. Now you're going to want to make sure you line up these pins properly. You don't want to have them misaligned and then push and then end up bending them. So once you're pretty sure you're there you go, you're all set. Now you can plug in your Minichord again. Here, let me give it a little bit of volume here. So here's a great example of a sound that begs to be handled individually, individual notes. You can still strum, or strum up this way. But again, if you want to play individual notes, you have a lot of spacing between them. Now one thing I want to do before I go is explain exactly how the notes are laid out on the harp. For the most part, when you play a chord, here, let me just change a couple of sounds here. So, let's say I'm hitting a G minor chord. All these notes that are on the harp side in the sound settings are pretty much going to be the notes that go with a G minor, but they're going to be like just maybe 3 notes maximum. So that's the first 3 notes. That's 1 octave higher, an octave higher, an octave higher. There's other kind of settings you can get to kind of mix the order, but for the most part, you're really getting about 3, I think possibly 4 different actual notes. You're not ever going to get a full chromatic scale, like 8 notes, you know, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, etc. It's always going to be like just the main 3 notes of a chord. Like if it's a major chord, you've got the root note, the major third, and the major fifth. If it's a minor, it's going to be the root note, a minor third, and a minor fifth. So as far as the pros and cons, I mean, obviously this is the strum plate that comes with the Minichord. There's basically an unlimited amount of ideas you can come up with playing with this and the chords. You can play along with your favorite songs or make up your own melodies. There's no reason why you can't get by with just this. Of course, if you want to have more individual note control, then I would opt for that. The cons about going this route is that you are going to have to buy it individually, so you're going to have to buy find a seller somewhere who's actually selling these or making these. And you can actually get these made yourself. Minichord does provide instructions on how you can get a manufacturer to make these up for you if that's the route you want to go. Maybe you want to make them and sell them yourself. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and get a full understanding of the difference between the standard touch plate or strum plate versus the alternate. Anyway, thanks for watching.